Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Italy Answered. It's the podcast version of the magazine, Live in Italy magazine, where we talk to people who share a connection to Italian culture, whether that be through heritage, profession, or passion. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Elizabeth Graceffo, founder of My Italian Decor. While she's not an expat herself, and we have our chat with an expat series too, Elizabeth has spent years traveling to Italy, working closely with artisans and bringing Murano glass and other handmade Italian goods back to the United States. In this conversation, we're going to talk about growing up Italian American because it's Italian American Heritage Month here in the United States, preserving traditions, and talk to her about her love of Italian craftsmanship and how she turned it into a lasting business. My name is Lisa Morales, and I am the editor of Live in Italy magazine, a travel and lifestyle publication dedicated to all things Italy. So welcome, Elizabeth. So great to have you here.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm happy to be here.
So we have a bit of a time difference. I'm in Florida, so tell us where you are today.
So I'm in California, which is 3 hours ahead of where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Bay Area near San Francisco, but just outside in Marin
Right.
County. It's called Marin County. And it's just over the Golden Gate Bridge, about it's outside.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, I have yet. Well, I was in the West Coast when I was little, but I have not been back as an adult. And I've seen, pictures of San Francisco. I'd love to go and to
Yeah.
that area. That's really nice. So, as you know, it's Italian American Heritage Month, and you are of Italian descent. So, I'm guessing, I'm not sure if it's your grandparents or your parents. So, give us a bit of background information about you.
Okay. So it's my grandparents and, of course, my great grandparents, who I had the pleasure of knowing until I was 12 years old, my great grandfather and my great grandmother. And they spoke with a heavy Italian accent, loved their garden, loved their family, and lived in upstate New York. And that's where my mom and dad were both born. And they're both of Italian descent. So my mother's family and my father's family. And then my dad worked his way across the United States. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and then grew up in California. And yeah, and this is where I've stayed, except for a period of about 6 years when I lived in Florence, Italy.
Okay, and we're gonna get to that
Mhm.
in a bit, your life and your business in Italy. But first, let's talk about your Italian American heritage because most Italian Americans are very proud of that. So, how was that kind of cultivated and preserved in your home?
Yes, we are very proud Italians, Italian Americans, and it was well, my mom and dad grew up on the East Coast, and we spent a lot of time as kids on the East Coast visiting our grandmother and our great aunt and all of our cousins. And that is where the Italian tradition really got cemented for me because it was all about family. It was all about the table and having family around the table and an open door to that as well. So we had friends and family show up and join us around the table all the time. And I knew I was Italian because they talked about being Italian all the time, would go into an interesting form of Italian language whenever they didn't want us to understand. And it was mostly a Sicilian American kind of mix of language. And it was always interesting because as kids, we would be sitting listening to them talk to friends on the phone or in the kitchen. And as soon as the story got really good, they would switch into Italian. So we wouldn't know what they were saying. But my great aunt was phenomenal. Her name was Catherine Basile, and she had the largest house in the family and would always have everyone over. And the table was just a very special place. I remember putting a tape recorder in the middle of the table to listen to all the wonderful sounds of the family, laughter and discussion and dishes clanking. And it was just such a special place. She would also make cookies. There were about 14 different kinds of cookies that she would bake weeks before our arrival. And we would sit around the table eating cookies and drinking coffee and playing a game called AC Doocy. And it involved so many people around the table, everyone from us who were very small to older, my grandmother and my grandfather, and it was a betting game. So you would bet on whether the next card coming up in a deck would be between the two cards that you had been dealt. And it was just so much fun. I just have such wonderful memories of being there. And one of the quintessential things was that my grandmother lived in one place, and then it was probably a mile away was my great aunt. And we would stay at my great aunt's house because she had the larger house. And every time we would leave there and go to visit my grandmother, she would have a buffet of food ready for us, even though we had just ate. And she wouldn't accept no. She's like, no, you didn't eat at my sister's house. You have to eat here. I'm sure she didn't give you anything. And of course, we would be stuffed. And so it would go. Any Italian home that you walked into always had a buffet or some sort of offering, cookies, breads, coffee, always coffee, tons of coffee. So that was always that table, that the idea of the table, the idea of family being around the table, friends being around the table really stuck with me. And I think that is my strongest memory and connection to my Italian roots.
Right. And we've talked about that before, la tavola,
Yes.
so I think there's that expression, and I'm going to get it wrong again, la tavola non si
Non si invecchia
invecchia. And,
mai.
yeah, so
That's
so
right.
I love that concept. And I think that's one of the things as a magazine we try to encourage is that, keep that tradition, like as busy as our lives can get. So let's talk about that. How, because you're talking about your grandparents kind of initiating this and cultivating it. How were your parents and then now you able to kind of preserve some of those traditions?
Well, it was the same thing at my family home. My father was a doctor, so he was not home every night. But whenever he was home, it was always a very, not formal, because it wasn't formal, but we definitely had dinner around the table. And you needed to show up for that. And then on Sundays, we would also do a Sunday brunch, breakfast all together. My family, I have two siblings. Um, and that was really important for my family to be around the table. And we would sometimes be around that table for 3 hours. I mean, we would talk and, you bring out the vin santo, you bring out the cookies, that's just where you sort of settle for a while and get to know each other again and again and again every night that you do it. It's a wonderful tradition, and we do it in my family with my two children and my husband, although my children are now grown, but when
Hmm.
they are home, we have dinner around the table. Every night growing up, in their childhood, we had dinner around the table. That was so important. And it was always a homemade meal. And that too was very important to my mom and to my husband. So in both
And
homes.
do you love to cook?
I am not the best cook. Luckily, my husband loves to cook and
Okay, great.
he's very good at it. So he was the one really doing the family meals for them, 70% of the time. I would jump in with a favorite pasta dish or a risotto or, something that I did know how to make really well that I knew they'd eat. I would do that. Yeah, but otherwise, it was mostly my husband.
Oh,
But the other thing
that's
about the
great.
table that I guess we probably will go to my time in Italy, but another
Hmm.
thing about the table is that, especially in Italy, I know that's not necessarily the tradition here, but you don't eat like in your car or on the road, and even if you're eating alone, they always set a table. And we always felt like that was really important too, to not just to throw plates on a table or to eat standing up, but you always, or in front of the TV. That is unheard of. It's always around the table with nice plates, and they don't have to be expensive. They don't, just so
Mhm.
that it's set, so that it means we're going to be gathering.
Right. It's an experience. That's
Yeah.
amazing and really important to remember even more is that we're in the age of all these devices, is that,
Yes.
we can't separate from them. So that's really beautiful. It's great. And I'm glad that that tradition has continued and hopefully through your now adult children that they'll take some of that with them
Yeah.
too. So going back to your grandparents that you said were originally from Sicily, is that correct?
Mhm. Yes.
Was that your paternal or your maternal grandparents or both?
Both of them.
Ah, okay. So when was the first time that you went to Italy? Was it with your family or just you?
It was with my family, and it was in 1980. And so
Mm,
my dad was just loved Europe, and so we did travel there a few times as kids. And I know that when I was in Italy, I felt a connection, just immediate, and it just an immediate connection with the sound of the language and the people. I just fell in love. So it was 1980 when I first went there with my parents and my siblings.
that's very interesting how you said you felt that connection because I believe growing up you didn't speak Italian and
Mhm.
but now you do. Now you're
Mm.
fluent. So how did that happen?
Well, it was from living there. So I returned the next year. I just knew
Hmm.
that there was something there that I needed to go back to and explore. And so the next year I did go back and I went to school there. I did an 8 month sort of a junior year abroad, and I ended up staying for 6 years. Um, Going back and forth on and off, but I was mostly in Italy for 6 years in Florence, and that's how I learned the language. Yeah. I did not, I was in an American school, but I made friends quickly with Italians, and I just immersed myself in Italian.
That's fantastic. And that's great. And then some time between the time that you were studying and living there until you started and the business's name is My Italian Decor. How did that come about?
Well, I think it kind of started in high school, to tell you the truth. I wasn't a academic person. I was an
Mhm.
artistic person, and so I took jewelry making and leathercraft and ceramics, and those were the things that really kept me um, motivated. They fed me, and so when I got to Italy, um, I had done a lot of leather crafts, a lot of building leather wallets and handbags and things like that in high school. So when I got to Italy, after living there a couple of years, I ended up working in a factory making leather goods, making
Mm.
leather wallets, and making handbags, and working with artists who were making handbags and belts and all kinds of things in leather in particular. And so when I decided after 6 years of living there that I wanted to come back, I wanted something that was going to take me back and forth, because I knew that Italy was in my blood and I needed to keep going back and forth. And I thought this would be a great possibility. So I started by importing friends' work in leather, and we did a really great business with I. Magnin and Macy's and Nordstrom's. We did a lot of custom work for them, doing everything from shoe bags to game sets that were in leather, to these beautiful leather boxes, to handbags, and just a whole belts, wallets, the whole small leather goods industry. Um, so I started doing that. And then about 5 years after I started that, there was a shift in leather production. And it was mostly being done in India, where
Mm.
they used horse urine to tan the leather, and it gave a very odd smell to the leather. And so right around this time, so that would have been 1988, about 93, they discovered new techniques of tanning leather. And and so other other people got into the industry that could undercut the Italian industry, and thus I kind of started to move out of it. I met somebody, I had a chance encounter with an old friend in Venice around this time who got me interested in glass. And that's how I started on the path of Murano glass. And so initially I was just wholesaling. I was only selling to stores, and that was under the label via Graceffo. And
Okay.
then about 9 years ago, I guess, maybe 8 years ago, I switched to more retail, and that's
Mhm.
when My Italian Decor was born.
That's great. So
Yeah.
now, I mean, anybody who's watching or listening to this or reading the article, um, they know that they can go to My Italian Decor, and what can they expect to find? Because we all know Murano glass. So
Yes.
that's just amazing. Like what could they find there that maybe they might not find in enough time when they're traveling there, or they might not find it here
Eh,
and just a regular department store. What would they find?
Yes. They would find a myriad of handcrafted items from Italy. So in the Murano glass area, we do a lot of tabletop. We do glassware, wine glasses and champagne glasses and tall and short glasses. We do decorative accessories. We do vases, a lot of vases. We do Christmas ornaments. We do plates and platters and serving pieces, and that's in glass. We also do small little decor like hearts and birds. We do some really beautiful animals. And then we also do Florentine leather bags, and we do Florentine leather bags. We do leather bags from all over Italy, and then we do leather and small leather goods. We do cashmere baby clothes, which is a brand new thing that we've just started, and I absolutely love them. We
Mm.
do ceramics. We do jewelry. There's just, yeah, whatever I can find that, my barometer is, does it make me smile? So if I am searching for and it's a new Italian vendor artist, I always kind of ask myself, does it make me smile? And that's so all of these things make me smile, and that's why we've sort of branched out into many other areas.
That's excellent. I'm a big lover of art and all things beautiful, I would say. And I always say that the first connection needs to be visceral.
Yeah.
Especially like in paintings, there are many motivations. It could be investment. It could be, does it match my couch? Or,
Right.
like there's a whole bunch of different
Exactly.
things. But yeah, I love that. It's got to
Yeah.
make you smile.
Yeah.
And then obviously anybody that's looking for certain items, it's got to make you smile too. So
Yeah.
I think one thing in our first conversation together that I thought was very interesting, because when I travel, we've learned since the first time our luggage in a connector flight from Paris to Rome, it was actually my husband's luggage that was lost on, we
I hate
arrived
that.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah. Oh no.
And so it was the
Yeah.
worst time. We were
Yeah.
running around, trying to just get pajamas for him and that. So ever since then, when we've traveled, we're like, we're going carry on.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
one thing I thought, which was really great, is that what you're saying is if somebody's been to Venice, for example, or Murano, or they've looked at a piece, that basically you can kind of save them the trip. So
Yes.
explain how that works with My Italian Decor. Like for somebody who just doesn't want to bring that big
Yeah.
piece home.
There's a lot of pieces that are that we sell that are made by people who have stores.
Mhm.
So as you walk around Venice and Murano, you will recognize some of the things on our website. And if you go to our website first before traveling there, you could kind of make a list of the things that you're interested in, see if you find them there, and then come back and purchase them from us. That way, you have the connection of the item because you saw it there, but you don't
Right.
have to carry it back, which is so nice.
Yeah, that's great
Yeah.
because,
And
like
we
you
ship
said,
for
there's
free.
a wide selection. Yes. So let's get into artisan because this is something that's come up with the magazine too. And it's just so important, especially when it comes to Murano glass.
Yeah.
Is that do you feel what you do is really helping to support something that could potentially just disappear?
Yes. I do feel like I'm helping to support, but it is on its it is unfortunately waning because there just aren't the generations to come into this industry because it is one that is not a huge moneymaker. Um,
Hmm.
the artists work very hard and prices just keep going up. Everything from electricity to the gold foil that they use to the glass itself to labor. I mean, prices just keep going up, and children of the artists don't see a future for themselves in it. Plus, the fact that Murano itself is changing so dramatically with a lot of the homes being turned into Airbnbs. So,
Ooh.
yeah, and that's happening through Venice as well. So,
Hmm.
most families don't hand down their property to the next generation. So then the next generation has to find some other way to live nearby, close enough to do the work if that's what they were even interested in doing. And yeah, so that's a big problem. And I have seen more factories close, more furnaces close in the past 10 years than ever before. And store fronts are closing as well. Um, it's hard. It's very hard. Murano glass is not necessarily expensive. I know it has a huge value in some pieces that are signed by notable artists, but there's a lot of pieces that are just general small jewelry, knickknack kind of items that there's a huge market. They're making a lot of that, but the price points are low. So, you have to
Hmm.
sell a lot to make a living on them.
Right.
So there's a
Yeah.
whole range, and I think that's one of the misconceptions. People think Murano glass is no matter what. If it's Murano glass, it's going to be very expensive and it's going to be very valuable, and it's not necessarily like that. A lot of times and when people ask me, "Is this valuable?" I always ask them, "Do you love it? Does it make you smile? Because if it makes you smile, then it is valuable. But on an open market, maybe not, because it was made by a mom and pop sitting in their garden in a little, on a little table with their fiamme, their torch, sitting there with
Hmm.
their torch making items that they sell to local stores or sell to someone like me. But
Right.
so the value really is intrinsic. Do you love it? That's all I can tell you. And
Right.
if you want to know if something is Murano glass or not, or if it's valuable, you really have to know who you're buying it from. That is the most important thing. That's the most important thing to avoid fraudulent purchases, is know who is selling it. Know that they have a connection with Italy, that they go back and forth, that they know the artist personally. That,
Right.
yeah.
Which kind of changes my next question because my next question would be how would you explain to somebody to go that extra step and make the investment in something that has been hand blown, that it is from Murano, which is part of, let's say, a family legacy? As
Yeah.
opposed to just getting something that's, bulk factory made. Because
Yeah.
what you're saying is like you can find affordable items. It's not all that, but
Yeah.
let's talk about those investment pieces, the ones that you love, but also, you want to, carry on that tradition in your home and pass it on and have it part of your
Yeah.
own legacy. What would you say to somebody who
Well, I
said,
would
why
say
should I spend
do
that much?
do your homework. I would say do your
Mm-hmm.
homework and find out if if the piece is made by somebody with years of experience, with passion, with notoriety of some sort, are they a teacher? Do they
Mm.
have a following? Is their name known? I mean, that would be the only way I would suggest investing a lot of money into a piece of glass, into a piece of glass, because it 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 there are so many levels of Murano glass, so many. And even the least expensive piece has history, it has connection, it has passion. I mean, we sell a lot of smaller pieces that are not super expensive, that are beautiful, that are made with commitment to the work, that's made with commitment to design and passion. um, so yeah, I would say do your homework and make sure you know that that name carries the value of what you're paying. And then,
Right.
of course, at the bottom line is, does it make you happy? Do you love it? Do you love the piece? I mean, I think that's most
Exactly. Like, why would you just have something in your house because you thought that it might be of value or greater
exactly.
value one day? Yeah, I love that. It keeps coming back to that,
Yeah.
which is it was just great, simple advice. So if somebody was to buy something um, on My Italian Decor website, would they have some insight into that? Like maybe who is the artisan or where it came from, what shop?
That is such an interesting question. And the answer is a little bit convoluted because um, I've been doing this for a very long time and things have changed so dramatically. But back in 1219, and I didn't start in 1219, but in 1219, they moved the glass making from Venice to Murano. And the reason why they moved it is one, because of the fire danger, but also to protect the secret of Murano glass, to protect the
Ah,
artist who is making it, because it became as valuable as gold across Europe and everybody wanted real Murano glass. And the people making the glass became noblemen. I mean, they were actually able to marry into nobility, which was unheard of for an artisan.
mhm.
So they were put on this huge pedestal, but they had to keep their secrets very, very private. So when I started in this business back in when was it? 1980, no, 1993, 94. No one shared secrets. No one knew what the other guy was doing. They put curtains up on their store walls. They did not, or store windows. They would not allow anyone to see what they were doing. And if they had something new, they wouldn't put it in the window at all. At night at 5 o'clock, everything shut down. Curtains came up, windows are closed, and nobody could see anything. And if and if a store owner who was usually also an artisan saw an artisan looking in his window during the day when the curtains were open, oh my gosh, hell was to be paid. Let me tell you, that was really offensive. So I grew up in this era of, like, you don't tell who your artist is. You keep
Right.
things, secret. And, with the internet, of course, everything has changed. And now you have
Mhm.
profiles on almost everyone. So we do give profiles of some of our artists, but not all of them. The one,
Mhm.
there are some that we protect their identity.
And is there like I'm just saying because like I don't know enough about shopping and looking, but is there like a certificate of authentication or something like that? How do you know? Is this that
Yes,
there's this it's like any product these days. There are just so many
I
fakes, like
know.
even handbags, designer handbags, and they'll say, well, look at the stitching and the way that, the
Right,
seal is there and
right.
things like that. So what about with glass?
Well, there are certificates of authenticity, and we provide one. But again, I go back to the same thing: know who you're buying it from. Because
Right.
if I know, I personally know everyone that I buy things from. Like, personally, I spend time with them.
Hmm.
I've known them. Um, I have known them for years. There's one artist, one of my favorite artists, who actually is just um, he's ill and hasn't been working, but I've known him since 20 for 26 years. 27 years. And I know that because I met him when I was pregnant with my son. I had gone back on a buying trip and I met him during that trip. And so I've sat down and eaten. I know everyone that I buy from. And that's the
Mhm.
best way. So if somebody comes to our website, they will see photographs taken of myself with a lot of my artists in Murano, in Florence, in Milan, everywhere that I purchase, there is everyone that I work with, I have a personal relationship with them. And that's really the only way, to tell you the truth, because anyone can put a certificate of
Right.
authenticity in a piece. I mean, anyone can put a sticker on it. There are some artists that sign their work, and there's a lot of my artists that stamp Murano on it.
Hmm.
That's always a good thing. But the other thing is it's not always possible to sign a piece. If it's really small, you can't sign it.
Right. Right.
If it's blown and kind of fragile, you can't sign it. And you certainly can't stamp into it. So, yeah, the best way to be sure is to know who you're buying from.
That's excellent. That's great advice. So, one of our most popular things to talk about is traveling to Italy. And one thing that we try to showcase, like through anyone that I might talk to, or one of our writers who might talk to somebody, is looking for hidden gems. So, everybody knows Venice. Hopefully, most of you know Venice, but it's just like when you need to get away a little bit away from business, what would you say is your favorite place in that area to go?
Um, that's tough because I don't get much time to explore anymore. Not in
Mm.
Venice Murano anyway, which is why I'm going to Puglia this time for 4 days because I don't really get a whole lot of time to explore. But if I were to, I would wander to the farthest northern part of of Venice, and I would wander. I mean, I think getting lost in the streets of Venice is one of the most enjoyable things to do, to stay away from San Marco, to stay away from the Rialto Bridge, to stay away from those really busy touristy spots and go as far north or as far east,
Mm.
yes, east. No, west. I'm sorry, west to the corner of most eastern corner, western corner of Venice. There's a big park and it's open space and it's really nice. But, mostly I like just wandering the streets where yeah, the northern part is, is really nice.
That
And yeah,
that's good advice for the slow traveler. I think anywhere, you travel, I mean, provided that, obviously it's safe, but
yeah,
it's just like just get lost and just wander.
yeah,
And I think that's part of just kind of, you know, our experience, the authentic travel experience, and also kind of living a bit like a local, that we don't have to
yeah,
always have a destination, right?
right. And I did see on one of the travel websites that there are, gosh, which travel, travel advisor, what's that called? That
TripAdvisor. Hmm.
TripAdvisor, sorry.
Hmm.
They have a whole list of really interesting things that you can do in Venice that are off the beaten path. And so there are ways of finding things. And the other thing that I love to do that I don't get that much time to do is to sit in a cafe and people watch. And I love that. I used to sit for hours and write postcards, but of course we know that nobody writes
Hmm.
postcards
Yeah.
anymore. But I used to love just sitting for hours drinking coffee and writing postcards. And so that's a favorite thing too.
Nice. I
Yeah.
love it. So, goals. You've already been doing this for a long time, but what would you say are like, what are your kind of next immediate goals for My Italian Decor? Where would you like to go with it, the business?
Oh boy. Well, I'd love to go into other crafts. I'd love to go more into textiles.
Mm.
I'd love to just continue along the path that we are right now. We're really doing very well. In the last 4 years, we've seen a huge spurt and a huge growth spurt. And I'd love to continue that. I'd love to be able to spend more time in Italy. I go twice a year for 2 weeks. I would love to go for 2 months and just really soak up soak up Italian again. Because going for 2 weeks and doing the same thing every time, I sometimes don't feel like I've been to Italy. I'll come back and it's just like, really, was I there? It was such a blur. So I'd love to go and spend more time. So I'd love to develop our staff a little bit more. We are growing and need more wonderful people to join us. And yeah, I think just continue along the path we are, exploring more and more artisans and more materials. And yeah,
Well, that's
I love
great.
the direction we're going in, so I wouldn't want to change anything.
Oh, I love it. And for anyone that wants to know more, of course, go on. We'll put all the links below. It's My Italian Decor, and they have a website and they're on social media, and you can follow that. Um, so part of Italian American Heritage Month, thank you for sharing that. And also, we have some good news because we're going to have a holiday guide, which if you are, an email subscriber visiting our website, you'll be able to access, and you'll be able to see some of the things that are just in time for the holidays. And we're going to do a giveaway, right?
Yeah. Yes, we are.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so that's fun. Make sure that you're following us on Instagram because that's the best way to know how, but we'll be posting that information. So thank you again for being a part of October Italian American Heritage Month. So glad to know that you're bringing a bit of La Dolce Vita to the United States and doing your part in preserving Italian culture in the United States.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. So we are Live in Italy magazine. The website is www.liveinItalyMag.com, and you can find us on all social media platforms, Live in Italy Mag. You can watch this interview on YouTube, and then we are also now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So thank you again.
Thank you,
And
Lisa.
and I look forward to knowing more and exploring all the beautiful things that My Italian Decor offers.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
Bye, Elizabeth.
Bye-bye.